X. My name is Pedro Molina. I am from Nicaragua, and I am a cartoonist. That means that I make a living criticizing the world around me, or rather, those who makes the world around us such as an uninhabitable place. It also means that I'm going to tell my story with cartoons. Like I said, I was born in Nicaragua, a small country in the middle of Central America. When I was a kid, my country was living in a civil war, and it was also facing an economic embargo. This was back in the 80s. Because of this, we lacked many things. They hardly showed any cartoons for kids on TV. We only had one TV station, a state TV station. We didn't have access to superhero comics, for example, or nothing like that. Add that to the fact that we didn't have internet back then, and that I was not exactly gifted at sports, and you can see that my entertainment options were pretty limited. That's when I discovered humorous comics from Argentina, Mexico, and Spain. Reading them made me want to copy those drawings. So I started to draw as a hobby. I grew up reading Mafalda from Argentina, Condorito from Chile, and many other comics. There is a very interesting difference between comic strips from Latin America and US comic strips. Most of the newspaper comic strips here in the US, they have nothing to do with anything but humor, the gag. They just want to make you laugh. But and in Latin American comics, even the ones that are supposed to be just for fun, there was always presence of social commentary, of political, topics included into humor. I mean, if you know Mafalda, you haven't read Mafalda, I invite you to do so, from Argentina. That character, which is the first one that is over here, she will talk on many different topics, politics, race, everything. So I grew up reading those comics. One night, my parents woke me up because the situation in my country was getting so dangerous that my family and I had to leave everything behind and go into exile. Like any 10-year-old, on the morning we left, I was very sad to leave my grandparents, my house, and my friends. My mother tried to console me by telling me that I was going to see new places, to see more TV channels, eat other types of food, have more comic books, In short, I will enjoy a life with more freedom, with more options. So when we arrived at our destination, my emotions were mixed. The first few days, we had to sleep on an old mattress on the floor because we didn't have anything else. And we had to cook in milk cans because we had nothing else. And add homesickness to all of that, and you can guess that I was very, very frustrated. But later, I was able to go out and see new places, full of new things, to try new foods that were impossible to get in my country, like cornflakes. I mean, this is serious. Cornflakes was like, wow, for me, right? So I also got to play a video game for the first time in my life. I got my first bike. Those little things helped to improve my mood as a kid. Little by little, I got used to my new reality. I entered a new school, I made some friends, I started my teenage years. Basically, I did what any boy my age will do. Plus, of course, I continued drawing as a hobby. And though that I mostly had a good time, something or someone always reminded me that I wasn't from there, that I didn't belong there, that it wasn't my homeland. Some years passed. One day I received a telegram. It was Christmas Day. I remember that, saying that my grandfather had died. I was very close to my grandfather. It hurt knowing that I could never see him again. Sometime later, we got more news. The war in my country was over, and we could go back. So yes, I was able to go back to my country. When peace and democracy returned to my country, my family and I also returned. So I finished my basic studies, and since I continued drawing, when it was time to decide what to do with my life, the answer was quite simple, or maybe not. The world of art is very big, right? Did I want to become a painter? Or maybe a superhero comic artist? Or maybe work as an animator for television shows? My life experiences marked by exile led me to wonder, why do wars, inequality, and injustice exist? That led me to question the exercise of power in all its facets and made me want to comment on it. And all that led me to the world of journalism, of editorial cartoons. I always say that I'm like the bastard child of art and journalism, and some people see that like it's something bad. Like Jose said, I feel pretty comfortable with one foot in one side and one foot in the other. That's where I belong. That's where I feel that I belong. Anyway, so I got into editorial cartoons, and I decided to become a professional cartoonist and started drawing my stuff and taking it to different media outlets until one of my cartoons was published. Since then, I've worked in traditional newspapers, magazine, digital media. There's always some people who congratulate me for my work and other people who get very angry. It's normal when you do this kind of work. Unfortunately, Nicaragua fell back into dictatorship. In the last few years, the Ortega Murillo dictatorship has robbed, kidnapped, repressed, and murdered my people without pause or mercy. As an independent journalist, I've denounced it and criticized that horror in my cartoons. The dictatorship has persecuted independent journalists and taken over the facilities of several media outlets, including the one that published my cartoons, Confidencial.digital. Our newsroom was confiscated and looted. That forced many independent journalists to leave the country. So once again, I had to go into exile, where I continued to do my job. That happened in 2018. Doing my regular cartoons, I'm still doing my regular cartoons for Confidencial.digital, the same medium that was confiscated and looted, now operating from exile. A sample of that is this project that I did. At some point, I decided to start drawing the victims of the repression in my country, telling their names and circumstances in which they were killed. Later, we decided to put together a book with all the drawings created over these years and distribute it in digital format, because due to censorship, it is the only way to circulate this type of work within Nicaragua. The book also includes comments from the families of the victims, which for me, it makes it super special. So like I was saying, I keep drawing about what is happening in my country. This was, we were supposed to have elections like 2 years ago, and it was a big farce anyway. So I keep drawing about what is happening in my country, but also about what is happening in the rest of Latin America. And what are the reasons that people have to leave their countries? And what should be the right answer to that problem? And of course, about what is happening in other parts of the world, such like Putin's war in Ukraine right now. Actually, this cartoon that you're seeing right now is the one that I did before coming here, and it's going to be out tomorrow, so you're seeing it here in the first time. So I'm also talking about what is happening in some other countries, like the civilian protests in Iran and what is happening over there. But also about what is happening in this country that has welcomed me and for which I cannot help worrying when I notice that many harmful political behaviors that we have already seen and experienced in Latin America are beginning to be seen here as well, which is not good news either for North Americans or for people who come here looking for a place, not even to live better, but at least to live, to survive. I remember a very hard-to-watch interview from a Venezuelan father holding his child after crossing to Panama through the jungle. And he was complaining about the fact that nobody wants Venezuelans anymore in their countries, right? And he was also saying, we want to go to some other places in Central America, but they are all turning the same. And we are running off of places to escape to. And that kind of, it gets me wonder, what is going to happen if authoritarianism keeps, spreading all over the world? Where are we all going to run to if there are no more places to run in the future? So that's also that it should make us think about these topics with more, care. Anyway, as you can imagine, migrants are a very important topic for me. This cartoon that I did a few years ago, it's about that. It says, I am an immigrant. When they don't want to do certain kinds of jobs, I am a solution. When they don't want to pay a lot for a specific kind of job, I am a solution. And when the government of my country needs somebody to send money to keep their system going, I am a solution. But when I ask for respect and rights, I am trouble, right? So freedom of speech and freedom of press is also a big topic in my work, of course, me working in journalism, and also what is happening to our common home, which is this planet, which is planet Earth. What are we doing with it? And so, anyway, going back to my story, as something, fun fact or curiosity, if you want to call it like that, this is the first cartoon that I ever did. It was a critical cartoon of the arrogant former president Daniel Ortega, who believed that the revolution was his and nothing more than his. He was the president of Nicaragua when me and my family were forced to exile the first time when I was 10 years old. This is the same guy. 30 years later, he was able to get back into power in 2006 after being kicked out of it in federal elections in 1990. He is the current dictator of Nicaragua, which it means I have been forced out to exile twice in my life by the same criminal. So it's very sad to see how these cycles repeat and repeat in Latin America. It doesn't matter if the dictatorship comes from the right or from the left, a dictatorship is a dictatorship. Because I come from Nicaragua. We had a terrible dictatorship back in the 60s with the Somozas, it was a family, who was a dictatorship in Nicaragua. Then the revolution brings Somoza down, and now we have another family who is a dictatorship. So, yeah. Although this is not my first exile, and this time at least I have had the help of professional and human rights organizations that have made me navigating the tortuous waters of legal paperwork a little easier, it's still difficult being forced away from your homeland, your family and friends. I remain connected to my country by making cartoons about what happens there and raising awareness about it whenever I can, like on this occasion. My experience as an exile has taught me to value and defend what other societies take for granted. The right to express oneself and choose freely, for example. It also made me more empathetic with the people who suffer similar situations around the world, which caused me to contribute in the best way I know how, which is my art, to their cause, which is none other than the conquest of and preservation of freedom, justice, and the right to have rights. So thank you very much for your attention. That's what I do.